Stop what you're doing, because this changes everything. For the first time since the Cold War, France is making a move so explosive that it could shift the balance of global power overnight. It's about to station nuclear-armed fighter jets in Germany. That's right, nuclear missiles on German soil, aimed at deterring Putin. And here's the real kicker. This isn't just about Europe. This could force the US to rethink NATO, push Russia into a counterstrike, and reshape the entire global security order in ways we've never seen before. Think about the sheer magnitude of this. Germany, once reluctant to lead in military affairs, is about to become the epicenter of Europe's nuclear defense strategy. But why now? What does France know that the rest of the world doesn't? And most importantly, is this the ultimate power play, or are we inching toward a nightmare scenario no one is ready for? Buckle up, because what you're about to discover will change how you see global politics forever. France is making a move that could redefine European security forever. It plans to deploy nuclear-armed fighter jets in Germany, forging a European nuclear deterrence shield. Why? Because trust in U.S. protection is fading, and Putin's aggressive strategies demand a local response. This isn't just about missiles on standby. It's about Europe standing on its own feet, prepared for a high-stakes game where survival depends on deterrence. History proves that nuclear balance prevents war. But what happens when that balance shifts? This isn't just another military maneuver. It's a statement. Germany, Europe's economic powerhouse, is now at the core of this strategy, hosting France's nuclear capabilities. Imagine the message this sends to Moscow. Europe isn't waiting for the U.S. to step in. It's taking charge, ensuring its own deterrence. But here's the real question. Is this a safeguard or a dangerous escalation? If you want to stay ahead of world-changing events like this, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because this is the kind of knowledge most people never get to see. For decades, Germany avoided deep military commitments, haunted by its past. But that era is over. Under Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Germany is stepping up, determined to shape Europe's defense future. The concern? A fading U.S. presence, forcing Europe to build its own security structure. With France's nuclear capabilities now in play, Berlin knows it can't afford to sit back. It's a dramatic shift from economic powerhouse to military cornerstone, one that could change deterrence dynamics across the continent. This isn't just about missiles or military budgets. It's about survival in an era of uncertainty. Putin has made it clear that Europe is a target, and Germany isn't taking chances. Investing billions in defense, strengthening alliances, and now potentially hosting nuclear assets, Germany is signaling its intent. But here's the question. Can Europe truly defend itself without Washington's support? And if it does, what does that mean for global power balance? This isn't just a military upgrade. It's a direct response to Putin's nuclear rhetoric. Russia recently revised its nuclear doctrine, making it clear that Western military aid to Ukraine could justify a nuclear strike. That changes everything. Deterrence is no longer theoretical. It's a razor-thin balance between security and catastrophe. With missiles capable of wiping out cities in minutes, the question is no longer if, but when Europe must prepare for a world where threats are no longer just words. And here's where it gets even more critical. By expanding its nuclear deterrence, France isn't just protecting Europe, it's drawing a new line in the sand. But will that be enough? With Russia holding over 5,500 nuclear warheads, while France has just 290, the disparity is overwhelming. Numbers matter in nuclear strategy, and right now, the balance is far from equal. The real question is, how far will Europe go to close this gap? If you find this analysis eye-opening, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because knowledge like this puts you ahead of 99% of people. The numbers don't lie. Russia possesses 5,580 nuclear warheads, while France has only 290. That's not just an imbalance. It's a reality check. Putin knows that deterrence is a numbers game, and Europe, despite its ambitions, is playing from behind. In a world where nuclear threats dictate diplomacy, having a fraction of your opponent's arsenal isn't exactly reassuring. This isn't about brute force. It's about perception. And right now, Russia holds the psychological advantage. But here's where things get interesting. While Europe's security is under pressure, the mere presence of missiles on German soil could shift the narrative. If France commits to expanding its nuclear reach, Could it force Moscow to rethink its threats? Or will it push Russia into an even more aggressive stance? The risk is real, and history tells us that miscalculations in nuclear strategy can have catastrophic consequences. The bigger question, can Europe truly stand up to Russia's arsenal? Or is this just the beginning of a dangerous arms race? For decades, NATO was Europe's ultimate security guarantee. But what happens if that guarantee disappears? With the possibility of Trump withdrawing U.S. troops and nuclear weapons from Europe, the alliance's stability is in question. That's why France is stepping up, because relying on Washington is no longer a safe bet. Without American missiles on European soil, deterrence becomes a European problem, and the response must be European-led. The question is, can France fill the void left by the U.S.? And let's not forget Putin. The Kremlin has been betting on NATO's weakening resolve, and a U.S. pullout would play right into its hands. Without American backing, Germany and its European neighbors would need to redefine security from the ground up. But is Europe ready for that responsibility? Shifting from decades of dependence to self-reliance isn't just a military challenge. It's a complete geopolitical transformation. So what's next? Could this be the moment when Europe finally takes full control of its own defense? When it comes to nuclear deterrence, numbers aren't everything. Strategy is. France may have only 290 nuclear warheads, but its ASMPA missiles are no joke. Each one carries a 300-kiloton nuclear payload, more than enough to reshape any battlefield. But here's the catch. These missiles aren't launched from silos or submarines. They require Dassault Rafale jets for delivery, meaning their effectiveness depends on air superiority. That makes Germany's role even more critical, as hosting these jets could redefine Europe's nuclear posture. This strategy isn't just about security, it's about leverage. By stationing these warheads in Germany, France sends a clear message to Putin. Europe won't hesitate to respond if pushed. But the real question is, will this move truly deter Russia, or will it escalate tensions even further? The effectiveness of a nuclear shield is only as strong as its credibility. If Europe wants to maintain peace, it must convince its adversaries that it's fully prepared for war. But what if France isn't the only country thinking this way? If France is leading the charge, could the UK be next? With its own nuclear arsenal and historic ties to European security, Britain is watching these developments closely. If London decides to join forces with France, Europe's deterrence power could effectively double. That changes everything. The combination of French ASMPA missiles and UK's Trident warheads would create a formidable European defense, one that Putin would have to think twice about challenging. But here's the twist. Would Britain take that risk? While the UK is no stranger to missiles and nuclear strategy, openly aligning with France's plan could further provoke Moscow. The last thing Europe needs is a nuclear escalation, but the reality is staying neutral might not be an option. If the UK joins this initiative, it could redefine the balance of power in Europe. But if it stays out, will that weaken the continent's stance against Russia? The next move could change the future of European defense. A silent shift is happening across Europe. Countries that once hesitated to invest in defense are now pouring billions into their militaries. Latvia, Estonia, and Poland are leading the charge, increasing their defense budgets like never before. Why? Because they see the writing on the wall. With Putin ramping up military aggression and nuclear deterrence becoming a daily discussion, these nations aren't taking any chances. It's no longer just about missiles or tanks. It's about survival in an unpredictable world. And here's the kicker. This isn't just a reaction. It's a long-term strategy. France may be positioning itself as the nuclear backbone of Europe, but without strong conventional forces, deterrence means nothing. That's why these nations are prioritizing everything from air defense to cyber warfare. The old days of depending entirely on NATO are fading. But with military spending skyrocketing, one question remains. Is Europe truly preparing for self-reliance, or is this just the beginning of an arms race with no clear end? Everything we've discussed is still in motion. The idea of France stationing nuclear missiles in Germany is just the beginning of a long and uncertain process. Political debates, military logistics, and international backlash will all play a role. But the biggest wild card? The United States. If Washington decides to maintain its nuclear deterrence in Europe, this entire strategy could shift. On the other hand, If the U.S. pulls back, Germany and its allies will have no choice but to accelerate their plans, whether they're ready or not. But let's be honest, this isn't just about policy meetings and military drills. It's about the future of European security in an era where Putin has rewritten the rules. With global tensions at a boiling point, every decision made today could shape the next decade. Will Europe take full control of its own defense, or will it remain dependent on powers beyond its borders? The clock is ticking, and the next move could change everything. Take a second to process what you just learned, because this isn't the kind of information most people ever get to see. France's nuclear move, Germany's growing military power, Putin's threats, and NATO's uncertainty. This isn't just politics, it's a complete reshaping of global power. And now you understand exactly how these pieces fit together. While the majority is distracted by headlines, you're seeing the bigger picture, the kind of knowledge that separates ordinary people from those who truly understand how the world works. But here's the real question. What happens next? Does this nuclear shift secure Europe's deterrence? Or are we on the brink of a new kind of Cold War? History is unfolding in real time, and only those who stay informed will be prepared for what comes next. If you want to be part of the select group that actually knows what's happening behind the scenes, subscribe now, turn on notifications, and don't miss what's coming next, because this is just the beginning.